This is Unit 7 Toolkit. This is the midpoint and length section, which will cover numbers 9 through 12. Number 9 asks us first to state the midpoint formula, which is a little simpler than distance or length formula. x1 plus x2 divided by 2, you're just taking the average of the x's. y1 plus y2 over 2, average of the y's. Then to find the coordinates of the midpoint, given of a segment with endpoints 0, -7, -10, -4. There's x1, y1, x2, y2, plugging in all these. So it becomes 0 from x1 plus -10 from x2 all over 2. Then the y's will be -7 plus -4 over 2. When you add those together, you'll get -10 divided by 2 and -11 divided by 2. And the -10 does divide evenly here by 2. That becomes -5. The other one does not divide evenly, so we can just leave it as -11 over 2. So there is your midpoint. Number 10 asks first in 10a, what are the two different methods for finding the length of a segment when given the coordinates of its endpoints? Method 1 is graphing the points, then drawing the slope triangle, and then use PT, and I abbreviate PT, Pythagorean theorem. Method 2 is using the length formula, which is x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared, and then the square root of all of that after it's simplified. So for part B, it asks us to find the length of the line segment between the points 5, -2 and -1, 2. If we plug into this formula, x1, y1, x2, y2, x2 is -1 minus x1 is 5 plus, then y2 is 2 minus -2 from y1 squared. This becomes -6 squared plus, these minus and negative cancel, becomes +4 squared, which means it's 36 plus 16, which is the square root of 52. Now you can leave it as square root of 52. Sometimes the multiple choice will have you simplify the square root or take the square root and get a decimal. But since there is no nice square root of 52, you can leave it like this. Now the other method again is graphing it. So if I just made a quick graph, and again you'll have the graph. You'll actually have a grid like this on the test, so you can use the grid if you want. If you graph it, 5, -2, -1, +2. So your segment is connecting these two. Your slope triangle drawn, so we've graphed them, now it's the slope triangle. Slope triangle will go down and over like that. And if you count your spaces correctly, it'd be easier to count them on the grid, because you'll actually have the grid on the test. 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces down, 6 across. Pythagorean theorem, 4 squared plus 6 squared equals x squared. 16 plus 36, and notice these numbers start to look familiar. Add those, you get 52. Take the square root of both sides to get x instead of x squared, and there it will 52. And then there's that same answer that we just got over on the other side. So either graphing or using the formula will work for number 10. Number 11 is where it gets pretty interesting. It says, find the area and perimeter of a square if the vertices of one of its bases are -7, 1 and 5, 6. -7, +1 is right there. +5, +6 is right here. Connect those two. Now they're saying it's a square. As soon as you see it's a square, remember that the square has 4 equal sides. So if we find one length to find area and perimeter, we can just use that one length for all 4 sides. Now the way it's drawn, the square could go up around like this, or it could go down like this. we don't even need to know which direction it goes. All we're doing, what we really need to know is we need to know this length. So if we follow what we just did, we can do either the big square root formula, or since we already have it on the graph, we can do the slope triangle. Now the slope triangle has a height from 1 to 6 of 5, and the base is going from -7 all the way to +5, which is 12 units. So if we do Pythagorean theorem, it becomes 5 squared plus 12 squared equals x squared. The x is this length we're trying to find, which is your hypotenuse. 25 plus 144 equals x squared. X squared equals 169, which means x equals 13. Now, that's just the length of the segment. So if I draw a square, what that means is that my square has a base of 13 now. And again, it could be drawn like this. We're not even concerned with drawing it here. All we need to know is that now we have a square with size of 13. So for perimeter, it's 4 of those 13s. Perimeter is adding up all 4 sides, which gives us 52. The area is base times height, 13 times 13, which is 169. So there's my area and perimeter on number 11. Number 12 asks us to find the perimeter, and this shouldn't say. Yeah, perimeter of triangle JAS if, and they give us all 3 points JA and S, so the grid is here. Let's go ahead and graph them. J is at 5 and 4. A is at -3, -2. So that's J, that's A. S is at 2, -6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now connect, and notice that this is not a slope triangle. There's no right angles in there. So for all these lengths, for all these segments, we're going to have to do slope triangles and do Pythagorean theorem. If you want to do, again, the distance formula or that length formula with the big square root, you can absolutely do that. But if I do the slope triangles for this segment JA, up and over, from -2 to +4 is 6 units. Here from -5 to +5 is 10 units. So now in Pythagorean theorem, 6 squared plus 10 squared equals x squared. Quick math, that becomes 136 equals x squared. And since it's perimeter, the idea is that I want to find the length of all 3 of these sides and add them all together. So for 136, I have to take the square root of 136, which I'm about to do in my calculator. 136, boop, boop, boop. Square root, where's my square root? Oh, square root, bam. So what that rounds to is, there's my phone, 11.66, which means this side starts with that length of 11.66. Now I have to do the same thing on the other 2 sides. So if I go with this one, A to S, side AS. There's my slope triangle for here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, which means I get 16 plus 25 equals x squared, which means 41 equals x squared. So then, let me clear this out. 41 square root, 6.403, etc. So this length here is 6.4, rounds to 6.4. The last third side now, all the way down, slope triangle, all the way across. This is only 3 units. From here, I'm at +4 all the way down to -6. That's 10 units. So Pythagorean theorem, 9 plus 3 squared is 9. 10 squared is 100. Equals x squared. 109 equals x squared. So clear one more time. Take the square root of 109. And I get 10.44. Now I can guarantee you, I'll tell you on the test, it is not going to be this long and difficult. On the test, it'll probably be a right triangle, so you only have to do this once. But here, this is a bit harder version of it. Now I've got my 3 lengths. I did Pythagorean theorem on all 3. I got all 3 decimals. Now I'm taking the 3 lengths, 11.66, 6.4, 10.44, and I'm adding those together. So once again, back to my trusty calculator. 10.4, 10, come on, 0.44 plus 11.66 plus 6.4 equals, and I get exactly 28.5 for my perimeter.